All right, let me check on a few of these other chats here and see. We are taking an hour for lunch. One of our questions thought it was 30 minutes. On our end to regroup for the afternoon, we will be taking an hour. So I'll let you know on your time, it's going to be 12 to 1. That will be taking a time, okay? Good question. What should we do with the month and a half of hygiene patients when you're already scheduled full? So I get it. So we've missed 6 weeks of patients due to this COVID. What do we do when we come back? Many of my clients are adding hygiene days and hours to the schedule. They're triaging who they want to get in. So maybe your preventive maintenance patients, your root planing and scaling, we're changing the schedule up. They're adding hygiene days if at all possible to do that. You will have in the natural course of the day and the week like we did before, you're naturally going to have some cancellations on the schedule because again, hygiene has a higher cancellation rate than we do for the doctor's schedule. But it's going to be a hot mess for a while. There's no doubt about it. So we've got to see if we need to add days. I have a few doctors that are actually doing on Saturdays, they are hiring temps. So they're going to have 3 to 4 hygienists come in on Saturday, and all that doctor is going to be doing is hygiene checks to just take care of the flow of patients that are coming back. I mean, obviously they haven't done that yet, but that's their plan is they may need to add one Saturday or one day a month with some temps. So good question. Let's see, I think that's it. We talked about text messaging. Okay, good to go. Okay, very good. All right, thanks for those questions. That's really helpful. I think some people, I'm glad you're putting those in the chat box because I think other people have the same kind of questions. So it's good for us to do it. So keep going and I'll keep responding to those, all right? All right, let me close these out for that. All right, now we're going to go on to System 2. What we know is how valuable your team members are. And again, listening to all the different webinars this week, especially for our doctors that are listening today, it's been, I'm sure, very difficult to be the calm, cool, collected leader when you don't have all the answers. And that is what our team is expecting and that they need. And I really appreciate how the doctors have on their side having to take care of their business, but also making sure they have their team players coming back, especially the dream team. But I can also predict that we may have some team members that will not be coming back, either because of school, online they've got school-aged children and there's no daycare or school for them, so they may not be back, may be back part-time. I don't think we really know what this is going to look like. So in this meantime, what I'd like you to do is start preparing for how can I create a dream team? In many ways, this is a good opportunity for all of us to decide who's in, who's out, who's the right person to be on our team at this point. So how are we going to find this person? So I will tell you that for the last 6 years, I also had another business. It's called Dental Jobs Colorado, where I have provided with a staff member. She and I hire quality team members for our doctors here in the Denver area. Very challenging, what I've learned in trying to find quality team members. You all are experiencing the same thing. There are a lot of people that apply, but how many show up? How do we find that one person in there? So what I'm going to give you is what my office manager and I have used for our staffing and recruiting business that we found to work as well as possible. I think, honestly, there's going to be a great opportunity when we're all back to work to find these people. Because if they weren't treated right in their previous practice, or they were already looking for a change and they had time to reflect, maybe they want to up their game and get into a different practice. So maybe it's a good opportunity for all of us to find that. You may be the team member that said, hey, I was looking to leave anyway, come summer, when I've got everything straightened out, I want to find the office of my dreams. So let's go through one, how can you find that office, but how can you find that team member too? So I'm going to give you the tips that we use in attracting and retaining team members. So first of all, what you want to be able to look at is how am I going to find these people, all right? Now, I will tell you right now, most of the avenues are these. Most of the time, you are going to find your staff members through Facebook. In Nebraska, as we do in Colorado, especially in Denver, we have the Dental Peeps. Most of the hygienists are being hired through Dental Peeps, to be honest with you. I don't think we've put a hygienist in a practice in a long time because they have their own network they're working through on Facebook. So that is one opportunity to join. Recruiters aren't allowed to be on there. Consultants aren't allowed to be on there. You as the doctor and a team member have opportunities to find people through the Facebook. The other one is Indeed. Indeed is free, or you can have a sponsored ad. In my personal experience, in our business, we place our ads on Indeed, and we don't often sponsor them. What I've found is when I sponsor an ad, I tend to get the same applicants as when I don't sponsor the ad. It does depend on the job description. So for a basic entry-level position, you don't need to sponsor it. If you're looking for a higher end office manager at a higher salary range, maybe with an MBA, a college degree, with a lot of experience, you're probably going to sponsor the ad. The other place I use is Craigslist, but not as much anymore because they're charging, at least in our area, they're charging either $25 or $45 an ad, and Indeed is free. And I was getting the same people from Craigslist that I was also getting on Indeed. So again, using those. I also will put it on LinkedIn, which is not on here. I use LinkedIn for my higher level employees, and I do pay for those. So a typical ad with LinkedIn is going to be $300 for a month. And I find it works really well for networking to get people in. So most of my office managers or practice administrators I have found through the LinkedIn source, all right? So that's another opportunity. It also gives you an opportunity to refresh your LinkedIn. Another thing we could do during this takeaway time is to refresh that. So those are the most common ones. Depending on where your practice is, some of the national job boards may work really well. For us in Colorado, they haven't worked as well for us. I think we're just too small of a state, and they seem to be better on each coast instead of in our local area. Okay, so I find this person. Here's the key. The key is not to be a dentist, all right? The key is when you get a resume through any of these avenues, Indeed, Dental Peeps, Craigslist, LinkedIn, is respond quickly. Look at that resume, and if they are possibly a great client, a great candidate, what I want you to do is call them immediately. Call, text, email, whatever your preferred method is. And honestly, we use all three. Because when we're calling applicants now, depending on their age, a lot of times they don't have a voicemail set up on their cell phone. So we text them. I have their number on their resume. I will text them and say, hey, this is Amy at Dental Jobs Colorado. We're real interested in your resume. Could you please shoot us give us a phone call at your convenience. I want to talk to them on the phone first for a quick 5-minute introduction to find out if this is a possible applicant. So set up a phone time as soon as possible with that person. Don't hold on to their resume and say, well, let me just get a list of them. This is what dentists do. Let me print those, let me get a list of them, and then once I sift through them, I'll start calling people. No, jump on the ones quickly. Within 24 hours, you want to jump on that person, because if they're a good candidate, they're going to find a job really easily. You want to be at the front of the line, okay? So move quickly. If you can't do it quickly, find someone on your team who can do that for you. It may be an office manager, it may be a hygienist, it may be someone in that department that you're hiring for, but find someone that can get that information and find out if it's the right person. So on the phone call, what I'm really looking for is tell me about yourself, tell me what attracted you to this position, what about the ad, tell me what kind of hours you're looking for, and tell me a little bit about your salary range, all right? So I want to get that all out of the way in the beginning. How many hours are they looking for, full-time or part-time? What's their salary range they're looking for? Because if I'm paying $16 an hour and they're looking for 35, well, there's no sense in going forward with this discussion. Also on the phone, I can tell a lot, can't I? I can hear who's in the background. I can hear where they are. I can hear their grammar. I can hear any distractions they might have. I can pick up on a lot just talking with someone on the phone. If they are good on that phone conversation, the next point, right then and there, strike while the iron is hot, I want you to schedule a Skype or a Zoom or a FaceTime meeting with them. Now, as Cynthia, my office manager, and I have found, is when we've asked some people to do a Skype, they'll go, oh, well, I don't have a computer, or I don't know what Skype is. And I'm thinking, oh, shoot, they're applying for our front office position in a really high-powered office. If they don't know Skype or don't say, you know what, I've never used Skype, let me figure out how to do it, they're not the right person for me. Now, look at all of us today Zooming, all right? I don't know about the rest of you. I might have done one Zoom meeting before last month. Now I feel like I'm almost an expert. I can actually do a virtual background on my Zoom, so I think I'm pretty awesome. Before this, I don't think we could have done it. By now, your team's technology skills, because they're off, or your candidates have improved, use this technology. Use the Zoom, Skype, FaceTime to be able to see if this person's the right person for you. Okay, so I'm not really looking necessarily at what they look like, but I am looking for their professionalism. Does that make sense? So I don't ever want to judge a book by its cover. Now, to be honest with you, we all are looking for the same person. It's someone that is going to stay with us for a long time. He or she is probably in their 30s. They probably have a college degree, and they are probably fit. Well, there's not that many of those out there. So we have to be really flexible, have some grace, spend some time with this person on these avenues to see, is this a likable person? Is this someone that my patients would like? That's the most important thing. They don't care if they're beautiful or if they're fit. I mean, that's great if that's the case. They're really looking for someone that's just going to be nice to them and make them feel comfortable. Does that make sense? So, how comfortable are they with the technology? I love it when someone says, well, you know, I've never done Zoom before, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and try it. I'm going to figure it out, and how about later today? Don't you love someone that is going to take that initiative and say, let me figure that out. I want to do that. So now's the time. You've got some time to be able to do that. Now, I will tell you, if you haven't already read, I think it was actually in the Wall Street Journal this morning, about Zoom, how to make a professional have a professional image on Zoom. So as I've told my husband who's working from home, I said, I don't think you should go on Zoom until you just go take a look in the mirror, because right now you kind of look like a homeless person, all right? So make sure if you're doing these interviews, you also look like someone that this person would want to work with, that would want to work for. So it's casual for sure, but this is also your opportunity to shine. So this is, I think what's great is we now have opportunities to not have to have someone come in the office. We have other opportunities to meet them online before then, all right? So let's say you've narrowed it down. Now what are we going to do? First of all, I would tell you, unless you need a highly skilled person like a hygienist with their hygiene license or someone with an MBA, I am big on hiring on attitude versus skills. I would much rather work with someone that understands customer service, has attention to detail, and loves a challenge than someone that maybe has been in dentistry for 25 years. Those of us that have been in dentistry for a long time have some challenges and some biases that other people don't have. So attitude is everything. I would say not most, but I would say over 50% of our hires are people that have never worked in a dental office. But they've been in banking, they've been in healthcare, they worked at Nordstrom's at the makeup department, they own their own hair salon, they worked in retail. I love hiring from restaurants if they were a hostess, a bartender. I'm looking for people that have dealt with all sorts of people, and they're looking for a different kind of hours. It's usually an hours thing. And they can't believe that we only work 4 days a week. They can't believe, like, really? 8 to 5, Monday through Thursday, 3-day weekends? This is awesome. So when I'm hiring, here's what I'm going to anticipate is going to happen, is you're going to place an ad and in any of these avenues, and you can get a deluge of people that are going to come in. So let's say we all open May 1st. Hopefully we do. Hopefully it's before then. If you have a staff member who's not coming back to work, what you may need to do to get through these quicker is to do a group interview. Many of you that are listening today actually did a group interview. It may have been when you worked at Kohl's. It may have been if you ever worked for Frontier Airlines. It may have been if you worked at a bank. It may have been even when you were applying to dental school that you had a group interview. I like group interviews because I can interview up to 10 people at one time in 1 hour. And in 1 hour out of those 10, I can figure out who I can move to the next step. Now, it really helps if you do this group interview if you have someone else with you. Now, in my case, I would have either the doctor with me or an office manager, or I'd have my own office manager, Cynthia, to work with me. And what Cynthia and I would do when we were working together is one asks the questions and the other is taking notes of the individuals that are in the meeting. So let's just say we schedule a meeting, a group interview on Tuesday evening at 6:30. Or Saturday morning at 9 or 10. That's usually when we do it. Out of the 10 people I asked to the group interview, how many do you think really show up? Okay, you guys got this. Probably 6 only showed up, all right? Only 6 of the people were able to get to that meeting. Now, that's good because I didn't schedule the other hours with each of the other people. So out of those 10, I have 6 show up. Out of those 6, how many are dressed appropriately for a job interview? So I've got 6 left. How many do you think are dressed appropriately? Probably 4. 2 of them look like they just came in from a date or a club, and they probably did, or going out. Others might be in sweats or even jeans. I will tell you in the evening, if they're wearing scrubs, if they just came from work, that's okay. That's all right that they do that, okay? So look at group interviews as an opportunity to weed through some people. I see how they interact with each other. And I can send you that information of how you'd actually conduct a group interview if you have a lot. I will tell you who it doesn't work for. Oops, I did it again. I'm gonna just push these buttons. Sorry, we gotta have a little quick review here because I keep pushing the wrong button. I'm so sorry. I get so excited I start pushing buttons and I'm pushing the wrong buttons. Hang on. There. There we go. We're coming. We got it. In the group interviews, I will have one thing to tell you is the only time I've not seen this to be to my advantage is when I did it with a group of hygienists. And again, I'm a hygienist also, but it was very off-putting, I think, for the hygienists to be in a group interview together. I don't know what the dynamics were, but it works much better with entry level or with dental assistants and front office people when you do that. Now, as you know, this is nothing new. You always want to make sure you do reference checks. So this is for anyone that's doing the hiring. If you're the front desk, a spouse, or the doctor, whoever is, you've gone through the personal or group interview, now you have to do your reference checks. I personally have hired people that were not right for the position, but they interviewed so well. They interviewed so well that I hired them on the spot. What you have to keep in mind is that crazy people interview well. They know how to interview well. We get excited, we hire them on the spot, and then later we got to pick up the pieces and realize there's some issues. 20 years ago, I hired a guy, a front desk person, to work in this dental office, and it was a female dentist. And I tell you, he was cute, he knew computers, and we thought, this would be perfect for the practice. But he had some restrictions. It was in downtown Denver. He could only work 8 to 5 because he was going to school at night. So he could only work until 5:05 and then he had to scoot out to school. Well, sure enough, one day the doctor calls me, she said, John's not here. I go, where is he? She goes, I don't know, I can't reach him. I can't reach him on his phone, and I can't find his resume. I can't find his application. I don't know how to get a hold of him. I'm like, oh, shoot. Well, I had the application on file. We called his mom, who was his emergency contact, and she said, well, John, I haven't talked to him in 2 years. He's in jail. We're like, what? He's in jail? mean, he's in jail. She goes, yeah, he's on a work release program in Denver. He's in jail in downtown Denver and he can work, but he has to go back to jail every night. I'm like, oh, shoot. Like, so what was John, can you mind sharing with me why John's in jail? What was the felony? She goes, well, it's embezzlement. It was embezzlement from another dental office. See, we didn't check references. He interviewed well. He was cute, he was a guy, he was a female dentist, he knew computers. What could possibly go wrong with that? Obviously, a lot. Not only was he gone, so was all the nitrous out of the nitrous tank, and we were missing a hygienist. So they escaped and went somewhere else. I don't know what happened, but it taught me a valuable lesson. Always check references. Now, I have found recently using Skill Survey. It is a company, it's inexpensive. It's one that dental schools use. So if you were applying to dental school and you wanted me to write a reference, Skill Survey would be one of the resources they would send to me because it's all done on the internet. I don't have to respond in person or write a letter of reference, and it's done online. So imagine this, you're hiring an office manager. She's gonna manage your accounts receivable. She is going to be training your staff. How great would it be that her 3 former employees would get an email, or employers would get an email from Skill Survey, and it's anonymous, that they respond and say, tell me how Candace Jones was in these positions. See, if it's anonymous, you're gonna get much more accurate information than if someone called you on the phone. So if someone calls me on the phone, my personality is to be very nice to them, say good things, and I don't want to get sued. So I'm just going to tell you the good things, not necessarily the bad. So check at least 3 references. Again, I recommend Skill Survey. Now, we do know that when you're doing reference checks, that you should always say, let me put this way. If someone calls you for a reference check, only say positive things about that person. And you can say they are not available for rehire. Do not give negative information out over the phone about an individual because you really don't know who's on the other line. Now, you could be like my friend, Dr. Deaton. He's in Kansas City, and what Dr. Deaton called one of his friends for a reference check, and he said, can you tell me about Katie? The doctor said, no, I can't really give you any information about Katie, but I will tell you this, that if you hire Katie, I will pray for you. Well, that's all Dr. Deaton needed to know, is that she's not available for rehire. So office managers or front office that are listening today, never give out a reference check. That is always an office manager's job or the doctor's job to do that, particularly if that employee has been fired or asked not to come back in the practice or resign. So that is a management tool that they need to use. You should not be giving out information on the phone. Okay, next one is use background checks. I never hire anyone in an office without doing a background check and I use HireRight. It is an internet background check company. It costs about $89. So I only do that for my final ones that are coming, final applicants. I want to make sure I'm aware of what's going on. Now, I would tell you that about 15% come back that there is something on their background check that I'm concerned about. What do you think the most important or the most common thing that comes up on a background check? I bet you can guess this. It is going to be a DUI. Okay, the DUIs come up. It is not a reason to not hire someone. In my case, that does not get them out of the loop of being a candidate. It's an opportunity for me to ask them about it. Now, keep in mind with the application I use and the one you probably use too, I use the one from the ADA or Ben Erickson's applications. They have a place on there to tell me if they have had a misdemeanor, felony, or any criminal actions. At least right now in most states, you can ask for that information, although it is changing where you may not be, they may not have to tell you if it's been 5 years or more. But right now, I already know there's an issue. It's an opportunity for me to discuss what did you learn, what are you doing differently. So always do the background check, especially if they're going to be dealing with money in your practice, okay? Next one is a skills assessment. I never hire anyone without having them come work in the office. I want to see what happens, do they show up on time? I want to see what their skill level really is. And you need to pay them for this. And you need to they need to go on, you need to collect all of their information even if they're working for a half day. Now if they're observing, that's different. But if they are treating patients, they need to be compensated for that, else you can get in trouble with the Department of Labor. Definitely have a skills assessment as you come in here before you offer them the job. All right. Now, here's some of the questions that we ask. Now, when we interview people, or when I ask you to interview, or your office manager to interview, what I'm looking for is making sure that I'm not talking very much. My job is to have the candidate do 90% of the talking, and I'm doing 10% of the talking. So I'm asking open-ended questions. These are like questions that you ask to your patients, isn't it? So they're open-ended so I get to know them. So imagine this, you are interviewing someone as a dental assistant and you ask her, what challenges and problems did you face in your last position? What if she says, oh my God, that doctor I worked for, oh, he was so, it was just unbelievable. He was so mean and boy, we had to work through our lunch or whatever she says. Whatever, you're listening to see what challenges. Wouldn't you rather she say, boy, we had a really busy schedule and we were off for 6 weeks because of COVID-19 and we missed some lunches, but it was fine because we were taking care of our patients. I'm just so grateful I have a job. You're looking for what their answer is going to be. You're looking for that right person. You're looking for value systems. Look at this question. What successes and accomplishments did you achieve? How did you do that? So let's say it's a front office person. She might say, well, I came into an accounts receivable nightmare. It was 3 times the average production of what it should be, and it took months to get it under control, but finally I have our accounts receivable at 1 month of production on the books. It was really hard, but it was great to be able to get through that. How did you do it? I carved out 4 hours a week where I had someone take care of the front desk so I could work on it. So you can see the questions you ask are going to spurn more information. I want to see if they're thinking. I want to see if they're a critical thinker. Look at this one. This is an interesting question. If you could wind back the clock, what would you do differently? What an interesting question. You know what most people say? I wouldn't have gotten married so soon. I would have finished my college degree and I would be a manager by now. Those are great answers. I love to ask that question because I want to see what they're thinking, what their goals are. So these questions, I would tell you to Google behavioral-based questions. They're all over the internet and they will definitely give you some to work from. Again, I'm happy to send those to you if you'd like me to send them. Ben Erickson has great resources for that also. And that's the HR company that I usually recommend. All right, there's 3 other questions you can ask. These are a little bit tricky, but they work really well. What if you said to someone, what is the biggest misperception people have of you? They kind of look at you and take back and they go, well, some people think, this is a common answer, is some people think because I'm quiet that I'm kind of snotty or condescending. I'm really not condescending, I'm just taking in information. That's kind of good for me to know when I am with someone. She's more of an introvert to keep in mind. Someone may say, well, someone says that I am just really loud. And I'm like, well, that is not a misconception, that is a true one, all right? I also ask them, why should I not hire you? What a weird question, but can you imagine asking someone, why should I not hire you for this job? They might say, well, I've never been in dentistry, I'm a single mom with 3 kids, and I live 2 hours away. Well, those probably are right. So asking questions in a different way, you're doing less talking, they're doing more talking. All right, what are your 3 to 5 year goals? Now, I will tell you, we all want a team member who's going to be with us for 20 years. I bet many of you out there have had staff members that have stayed with you 10, 15, 20, even 30 years. We all want that, but to be honest with you, in today's, especially with our millennials, they are moving quickly through our systems, but I do want to know what their 3 to 5 year goals are. Let's say you have a dental assistant that says, I want to go to hygiene school. Once my kids are in school, I want to go to hygiene school. I think that's awesome. That's not going to deter me from hiring her because she wants to be a hygienist. If I have A hygienist who says, I want to be able to open up my own interior design business in 3 years. That's not going to deter me from hiring her. I'm looking to hire people that have goals. I don't want someone's 30 to 5 years to be, well, I hope I'm a dental assistant for the next 30 years. I don't necessarily want them to say that. That could be their goal, but you see where I'm going. I want to hire people that have other goals. Their goals may be to buy a house. Their goal may be to have children. Their goal may be to whatever it may be. It doesn't matter to me that they won't be there for 20 years. What matters to me is this is a goal-oriented person, if that makes sense. Okay? So asking some key questions. Now, let's say I've hired this person. I've got them on board. I've got an onboarding system. I've done all the paperwork. Now, how are you going to keep them? I would ask you, if we were in a live setting here, if we were in a live audience, why some of you have stayed with your doctor as long as you have. And you know the kind of answers you'd be raising your hands is, we're family. She treats me so well. She treats me better than anyone in any employer I've ever had. He is so generous. He is so kind. He's been so great with my family. She recognizes when I need time off with my kids. What you will find is retention. If I asked all of you here in the live audience why you've stayed, it's because you are a family. And let's face it, you all spend more time together in the office than you do with your original family. Now, some of you are really glad about that. I was personally very glad to go to work today and get out of my home office today. I thought it was awesome. But how you treat each other determines how long people are going to stay for you. Some people say, well, it's how much money I'm paid. That's very rare that people stay just because of money. And if you're just staying in a practice because you are getting paid well, or if the doctor's paying combat pay because he or she is difficult to work with, that's not a great work environment. So retention comes from that if you treat each other better than you treat your own patients. Nothing could be more important than what's going on now and how you're communicating with your staff. You don't have the answers right now. You don't know what to tell them. You don't know the answers. No one knows the answers right now. I don't know the answers. Your accountants are figuring it out. Banks are figuring it out. But what we do know is that you're in touch with your team to let them know that you do care and it's going to be fine. You don't know when, you don't know how, but it's going to be fine because you are a family and that's what you're doing with your own family. So we are as important or more important than even the patients that come in here. You've got each other's back. When that patient calls to complain to the doctor and you're the front office person and you take a bullet for that doctor and tell them how great he is and what he's doing for them, that is so important. And doctors, when you go to church and someone says, you know, that Susan called me and, you know, she's trying to collect money and, you know, I just think she was too aggressive on the phone. Doctors, when you're at church and hear a patient say that, you've got their back too and say, you know, she's awesome. She's been with me for 10 years. That's her job. Certainly let's talk about it on Monday, but, you know, she's probably just doing her job for us. You've got each other's back, all right? Doctors are willing to dismiss a patient who is disruptive or is not the right patient in the practice. I kiddingly tell people, wouldn't it be great at Christmas if your doctor gave you this present and you could dismiss any patient of your choice? Would that be awesome? Right now you guys like writing down a name of someone you can dismiss. That would be, the only exception is it can't be the doctor's family. That's the only thing. Those are the ones we really do want. Listen, the doctor wants to dismiss them from their practice too. Recognition and reward. Most of us in dentistry, especially if you're a dentist, this does not come natural. Most of our personality styles, if you've been through the DISC training before, are steady, cautious, engineering, bookkeeper type, architectural. You're very detail and system oriented. Therefore, recognition and reward does not come easily to you. It's a second nature to you to say please and thank you and to recognize people's hard work. So you need to bump that up. If you want to keep team for a long time, we've got to learn to say please, thank you. We've got to recognize birthdays and work anniversaries. We've got to make sure that we celebrate Dental Assistants Day, Doctors Day. And team that are listening, this goes both ways. We think it's just the doctor that needs to do this for his or her staff, but it's the reverse. I work with a great doctor in Colorado Springs. He's a pediatric dentist, and Dr. Sean and his team have worked really hard on this. Dr. Sean is a hardworking, driven person. He does triathlons. He does 100 burpees a day. I mean, it's crazy. He sees 70 patients a day. It's crazy. So it's an intense environment to work in. It's frustrating. You're in pediatrics, so you've got special needs kids, we've got sedation, hospital. He thrives on it. It's hard-working environment, people they see. But I will tell you, there's not a birthday, an anniversary that goes by for the staff that isn't recognized. Dr. Sean just had his 6th baby, if you could imagine. Not just 2 years ago, had their 6th baby. The team had a shower for Dr. Sean and Jenny, his wife, because that's what they do, their family and its retention. They appreciate their jobs. They appreciate what Dr. Sean's done for them. We're going to Disney World coming up here in May. They're going to go later this year. He had a staff member who's a single mom and had to stay home with a sick child and had no money for Christmas. She did not have to worry about Christmas presents for her child that year. And it didn't come from Dr. Sean. It came from the other staff members who didn't have much more. That's what I'm talking about, is recognition and reward, is recognizing and rewarding the people as a person and not just what they contribute to the practice. The other thing they do I think is great. They have an awesomeness box, and it's a decorated box with glitter on it. And every time someone does something awesome that helps them, a little slip of paper goes in there. We draw them out at staff meetings. Whoever has the most slips of paper gets a credit card or a gift card of their choice, restaurant, gas, or whatever it'll be. They work on it constantly to make sure they're recognized and rewarded. This was Dr. Sean's 10th anniversary of being open in his practice, and the staff has already planned the whole party for him as a team of what they're going to do for him. So it goes both ways. That's where retention comes from. It's like you would treat like your family, for sure. And I would tell you, doctors, is empowering and delegating, but don't micromanage. Again, that goes against most of our dental styles or personality styles, is we like to micromanage because we're detail-oriented people. We want to make sure things are done well. But just keep in mind, they don't have to be done the exact way that you're going to do it. Let's let someone try to manage it on their own and see how they do. You want your staff to feel trusted, but I will agree they've got to earn that trust. They've got to earn it to be empowered and before you can delegate. So I'd love to see on the chats coming up of why you have stayed in your practice the longest, or how you have increased retention in your practice. So when you have an opportunity, we'll go through them on our lunch break. I want to see what your offices have done to make that work. Okay. All right. Matter of fact, let me look at some questions here because we're running ahead of schedule. I'm going to look at some of these chats now. So I'm moving over to my computer here. All right. Someone said, I missed the conversation about texting. My audio was not working. What do you prefer? What systems do you prefer? So again, Weave, Solution Reach, and good one, we have Lighthouse on here. Lighthouse is the one I forgot. So Weave, Lighthouse, Solution Reach. And I usually want to send out a month in advance to have them email or confirm the appointment by email or text, and then a week after that. Okay, let's see here if there's more Q&As. Good. Good question. Melanie, I have older patients who are so confused when they get the text reminders. The reminders say reply stop if you want to opt out. I have had at least 6 different families reply stop because they don't understand opt out. Is there a different wording that we could use? Boy, I totally understand that. I have been on that also, on that end of like, does stop mean I'm not going to get the reminders anymore? Does it mean I'm canceling my appointment? I would ask your patient engagement system if they have different wording. So again, Weave, Lighthouse, Solution, Reach. I would ask them if they have some different wording, but I totally understand that. Okay. All right, I think we are good. All right, any other chats here? Good sound. Okay, let me just make sure. Click that off here. Yeah, it's kind of nice having, I miss being live with all of you, but it's so nice to be able to see some questions on here also. All right, okay, if you guys are good, we've got another about 37 minutes to go here, so I'm going to jump into this next system, all right? So we're ahead of schedule. All right. Okay, strategy 3. Here's what we know is going to happen. We have to kind of take a step back in these times, I think, and I think most speakers and consultants I've been listening to when it comes to treatment planning. Because at the end of the day, we may have patients coming back that are worried about money, their job security, they may have lost their dental insurance, but they still have dental needs. So we may have to go back to other times that we've had to face this crisis. And to be honest with you, for some of us that have been in dentistry a long time, we have faced this before. The AIDS epidemic, we faced it after 9/11, and we faced it in 2008 with an economic downturn. We faced this before, and we knew we had to do something differently to keep our schedules full and productive. So let's step through a few of these so that we'll know what they are. We need to go back to being really great listeners. Many of you remember when you were first out of dental school or dental hygiene school or assisting school, we had a lot of information. We had a lot of stuff to tell our patients, and it was just great. They're in our chair, and we could just spew out everything they needed to do in their mouth. And we talk, and then what we found out at the end, they go, oh, I just want this one tooth fixed. We forgot to listen. So we have to go back to the basics in a crisis like this. When we are back in practice, we're going to be busy, we're going to be productive, but we got to be really effective so we're not turning patients off. So we have to listen to what their needs are. And I don't know if any of you were listening to the ACT Dental seminars, Kurt Barrett. That was one of my go-tos during this whole time period and still is. That's my feel-good webinars where I'm really learning a lot about verbal skills, leadership, and even clinical dentistry of what we need to do. And one of the speakers was so good in talking about the listening to our patients. We've gotten away from doing this. When we have a new patient in the chair, what we need to be able to say to them. So I'm going to cover that in just a second. We know we're going to have to phase treatment more than we wanted to do in the past. We had some great years of economic strength, low unemployment, and patients were able and willing with education to do the kind of dentistry we needed them to do, or they wanted to do, that they needed to do. We're going to have to probably step back and do more phasing of treatment for some patients. Some of our patients are still going to be able to go forward and have the wherewithal to go forward. Some of our patients, we're going to have to phase that treatment and drop it back a little bit usually because of finances. We got to be comfortable with that. We've got to be comfortable with presenting 1 or 2 different treatment plans. As we know, we should be doing what if they did nothing, what would be the ideal thing to do, and what is something that we can do in the meantime. All of that is listening and going slow. I think if we go too fast, when our patients come back into the practice and we become too aggressive, they're going to pick up on that we're desperate. And I think we've got to be the voice of reason and be calm with them of, it's okay, we're going to get through this. Let's find a time and a place to do this. You're the boss. My job is to tell you what you need. Your job is to tell me when you're going to do it and how you'd like to take care of it. You're the boss of that. My job's to tell you what you need. So let's go slow. Let's be graceful. Let's be flexible. But I don't want you to shy away from telling them what they need. At the end of the day, it is the patient's job to tell you when and how they're going to do it. We don't know what their situation is. So let's talk about a little bit of how we're going to get patients to do this. I've always been a big Care Credit fan just because I've seen the numbers. I don't like having to give part of our treatment plan away and discount it by using outside financing, but let's face it, there's a lot of patients that could not. They may have good credit, but they don't have the cash to do the dentistry we're looking for. So this would be an opportunity in your practice if you haven't already implemented Care Credit. And the other one is Green Sky. They work with banks. They have like 14 different banks that they work with to be able to get financing for your patients. So let's look at opportunities to expand. If you have a Care Credit rep, they can tell you on your own computer system how you can see who has open credit. If you know in your morning huddle that I'm coming in with a broken tooth, but I've used Care Credit in the past, you can see if I have opportunities to use that in your office. Now, I will say I want to be really open with my patients. I want to let them know the downsides of going with outside financing. We all know what that is if they miss one payment, it all goes back to, gosh, 26% interest. So be real clear with them. When I do use Care Credit or Green Sky, I have them research that on their own. In the old days, we used to do it with them just in our office, that we'd go ahead and go online and check their credit. For me as a front office or office manager, nothing was more embarrassing than to tell a patient that they didn't qualify. It's like when we're at the grocery store or a restaurant and our credit card is denied. It's so embarrassing for both the retail person or the server, as well as for us. So give your patients the information. Let them do it right then and there on their cell phone. You can have them use a computer in the consultation room to find out their available credit. But I think right now we've got to get some flexibility for our patients to be able to pay for the treatment. And they'll know, because it's for patients with good credit, they just don't have the cash. And a lot of them are used to using it or are going to have to use it to be able to get some treatment done. So we have to be more comfortable with that also. You are still going to be getting new patients. I think that this is an opportunity for all of us to increase our new patient flow. I don't think this is the right time to do direct or advertising to get our patients in, but I do think it's a time we're going to see patients switch. They may have been frustrated during this 6-week period of time or a month period of time when they didn't hear from your office. They may not have gotten a call back. They may have used this as an excuse to move on to another dental office and they're looking for a referral. I think we have opportunities here to capture some of the market. We have practices that may be shutting down. We have dentists that are in their 70s who are saying, I can't weather one more storm. I've been through this 3 times. I can't do this anymore. And patients may be jumping ship. So this is a chance for us to use those skills that we learned when we first got out of dental school. And we need to go back to the basics. So again, it's not what I think the patient needs. It's what the patient thinks they need. So imagine this one. You're starting a new patient exam. Look at this picture of a doctor and a potential patient, or it is a new patient, in the consultation room. So this person checked in, they met with your front office person, they were escorted back to your consultation room, and they're having a one-on-one meeting with the doctor. Doctors, you only have one chance to establish trust with that patient and do it really well, and it's in that first 10 minutes you're with them. So let's go back. Look how they're positioned, knee to knee, eye to eye. Of course, we can't do that now. We're not 6 feet apart. But in the future, when we're back in there, how about that we start with these questions again? How may I help you? They're open-ended. What did your last dentist tell you? Tell me about your past dental experiences. That tells a lot. The old question we used to ask is, tell me about your parents' teeth. See, if I asked some of you to tell me about your parents' teeth, you would have a story. My mom, She's 87, lives here in Denver. Boy, does she have a story. She's had implants for over 40 years in her mouth. She just had 3 replaced in the last month. She would do anything to save her teeth, anything at all, to the point of having 3 implants, and it was actually 13, 14, and 15. There was a part of me saying, can't even see it, but okay, I get it. Do you know what your patient's dental IQ is in their history so that you can give them the best treatment plan? You're going to give them the best treatment plan, but you're going to tailor it based on what their expectations and their hot buttons are. So are we listening to that? You might talk about budget. You might tell, what is your budget for dentistry? See, some people think they can get $6,000 worth of dentistry for $600. And some patients are really surprised that it's only $6,000. You have to ask them what their budget is and what their time frame is. So what are you looking at? What have you allocated for this part of your life? How much time do we have to be able to do that? That's how you establish the trust. Now, if I had a magic wand, I would tell you that I wouldn't have the patient have their teeth cleaned on the first visit if I had a magic wand, because I think I need that patient to establish the rapport with the doctor first and see a hygienist on the next visit. Who knows what it's going to be when we're back in our office, what that's going to look like, right? So let's look at opportunities to build trust with our new patients and our existing patients. You may need to revisit your treatment plans. You may need to go back with your patients and re-listen and just reset. Remember how in the past we were always trying to, we should really re-examine our patients every 7 years. Remember we'd update their x-rays, take another full mouth, maybe a pano and bite wings. Maybe we need to get back on that and plan this for not this time, but the next time, and just redo their treatment plan because things have changed. We have a break. We had a mental and a physical break from our patients. We've got to be able to listen to what they say and where we go. Phasing treatment, one of the questions that came up in my last seminar is, should we have treatment coordinators in the office? I would tell you, as a treatment coordinator, it's a unique position that orthodontic offices usually have, or perio offices, maybe even oral surgery. As a general dentist, you may not need a treatment coordinator. What you probably need is a doctor who explains treatment super well, all right, and can exit stage left and have the financial administrator wrap it up. So to me, that financial administrator to meet in a consultation room, answer any clinical questions she can, and then go ahead and close the deal or talk about the finances is great. One thing we know is we don't want the doctors involved in financial discussions. It never ends well. It's embarrassing for the patient, it's embarrassing for the doctor, and honestly, doctors, you give the store away. You are too flexible with your financial arrangements. Let's leave that to our front office person. But give them some treatment options. Give that front office person some privacy and some different phases that she can talk about with the patient. They're not always going to tell you as the doctor that they can't do it. They're not going to say, oh, that usually the patient says to you, oh, that's not a problem. Yeah, I can do that. You leave and they go, oh my gosh, does she think I was made of money? There's no way I can do that. So it takes a great front office person, call it a treatment coordinator, financial coordinator, to really seal the deal in a consultation room. We have to get back to that. We have to get back to having that relationship with the patient, understanding their needs to be able to go forward. Okay, a few chats came in here, and let's answer some of these. All right. How often should staff meetings be held? I have a small office with morning huddles. How long should morning huddles take? 15 minutes. Yeah, I would tell every office you should have one staff meeting, a minimum of once a month for at least 2 hours. That's what I prefer, because you need time to communicate. You need time to have team building time. You need to have time to have lunch together. You need time to discuss our plan. It's going to become even more important as we get back to work. I hope now you're having Zoom meetings with your team. All right? I hope you're Zooming and say, hey, I've been listening to great webinars, everything, I think it's going to be fine. I don't know all the answers, but staff meeting once a month, usually for 2 hours. Honestly, I prefer they're done, again, if I had a magic wand, I would do them first thing in the day from 8 until 10 o'clock. I know we lose production time there, but I will tell you, we're on time, we can drink coffee, we will get out on time because we have patients at 10. Over the lunch, I find we have the worst meeting attendance and staying on schedule because we run late, especially if we don't want to be in the meeting. And number two, we have patients coming back in and we're eating. So people are getting up and down, they're making their lunch, they are whatever they're doing. So I prefer uninterrupted time and do it 2 hours. Good agenda for morning huddle. The morning huddle, a good morning huddle can be 10 to 15 minutes. I have one office in Kansas City with 2 doctors and 15 staff members, and they can do it in 15 minutes with a really straightforward agenda. But everyone's there, everyone's prepared, they're standing up, they've already put their makeup on, they're not reading the paper, their cell phone is put away, they've already had breakfast. I mean, they literally are standing there looking at the monitor where the schedule is or a written schedule, and they have a cup of coffee, and the office manager or front desk is running that meeting. It's real effective. Okay. Says next question here. I had staff retention of 25 plus years. It has changed recently with newer staff. Is it just a different mentality now? Yeah, good. Boy, if I had $1 for every doctor that said that to me, it's like, we had it all, we went on retreats. I had the same staff for 25 years. It was wonderful. And now it's all completely changed over. And I'm afraid to say that's just kind of reality. That is what's happening is either we're working longer as doctors and our team are retiring and we're getting new team on board, and it's very different. And is there a different work ethic? I don't think it's a work ethic between these generations, honestly. I think it is just, for those of us that are baby boomers, so this person, had staff retention of 25 years is probably a baby boomer, probably in my age group. Our teams that are our age stayed with the same practice for 25 or 30 years. That's what they did, that's what their parents did. But the generations underneath us have realized, there's more to life than working in one practice. They've seen, especially baby boomers, they've seen their parent, if you're a baby boomer, anyone looking at us, looks at us and go, where was their work-life balance? Because as a baby boomer, we were workaholics. We were meant to work. We were meant to work hard. We look for opportunities to work. This part of our lives right now, being not working, drives us crazy as baby boomers because we've got to be working. So is there a different mentality? I think the mentality is that our younger generation and our younger workers are more work-life balance. And I will tell you, especially for our millennials and Gen X's, the longest we can expect them to be in our practice is going to be about 1.5 years. That's what I tell doctors that are looking for staff members and they want people to stay for 20 years. I go, that's not going to happen anymore. First of all, you may not want to hire a baby boomer like me because I'm going to struggle with technology. I'll be really good with your patients, but with technology, I'm not going to be great. I said, honestly, doctor, you want a millennial. And you got to make it fun, you've got to make work rewarding, but they are going to be your workhorses and can implement the projects you need to have implemented. They won't be here long. So is it a different mentality? Yes, it is. Is it necessarily unhealthy? No. And I will tell you, I love millennials. I love millennials because I don't find millennials to be lazy or entitled. I find that, you can find that in any generation, can't you? Any generation you can find entitled or trophy people. But I love millennials because they are sharp, challenged, give them a project, tell them to do a spreadsheet. They totally get that. You can't ask some of us to do that. So good, very good question, very, very good question. Oh, this was very good. Listen and silent, use the same letters. Thank you, Garsh, that was really good. All right. We have had more than a few new patients seemed annoyed if we can't see them for their first appointment and they don't get their teeth cleaned. Good question. What wording would you use to explain this to new patients? I get it. They call, they're switching dentists, and they're like, I just want my teeth cleaned. All I want is my teeth cleaned. And we have to go through the verbal skill of what I'd like for you to say is, Boy, I totally understand that, how you'd like to have your teeth cleaned. I wish we could do that on our first visit. But you know, Dr. Smith, she is such a perfectionist, and she really wants to get to know each and every one of her patients first before she diagnoses or does any treatment. Would it work out all right with you if we had you in for an hour examination with Dr. Smith, and then at that same time we go ahead and schedule your appointment with the hygienist? If they say, and I'm being real here, if they say, read my lips, I want my teeth cleaned, I'm 8 months overdue, you know what? I'm going to make it work. All right? I am going to make it work, but they are still going to see the doctor first for an examination, and then they're going to see the hygienist. Because we all know something can change from the exam into the hygiene chair. But I'll let the doctor and hygienist handle that from the new patient exam. So I'm not willing in these times to cut off my nose to spite my face. I will definitely try to gear them towards, I wish we could, but Dr. Smith prefers, than doing the cleaning at the same time. Okay, good questions. All right, let's see if there's some more here. We got that one. All right. Okay. Good, good, good. Okay, got them. All right, I hope that answers your questions. Here we go. What is your advice concerning production bonuses as incentives? Good question. I will tell you, bonus incentives used to be really big, especially the 80s, the 90s. I don't see as many bonus incentives based on production as I used to. I think part of it is, honestly, it became a demotivator. If we were set up on a bonus incentive based on production, if people were using that bonus to live on, let's say they were using that to help them pay rent or buy gas or buy food, if the doctor took time off for vacation or we had a down month for whatever, let's call it September and May, you know, our typical down months that we could have, what I found is it was so disappointing to the team to not achieve that bonus because they were counting on it to live. I see people sometimes would manipulate the system. So if I'm your front desk person, we're not going to get our goal this month, I might try to schedule that patient for next month instead of get them in on the 31st of this month, so I could manipulate it. I saw a hygiene production program set in South Dakota one time, and the next time I was in there, I couldn't believe the hygienists, they were rushing through their treatment so they can get their production goal. So it kind of did the reverse, and we were getting patient complaints they weren't spending enough time with them. So I think a good bonus system that is based on collections, it's based on new patients acquisition, is a really healthy system. It has to be on a 3-month rolling average. So if I'm going to be on a bonus incentive, it's going to be based on a staff percentage of my income. So, for example, right now you could take 2019, look at your P&L that came from your accountant or on your own QuickBooks. You can look at this and see what was my staff percentage in comparison to income. Let's say it was 25%. You can use that as saying, I am going to pay the staff 25% on a 3-month rolling average of income that comes in. So every month they would get a bonus, but it's based on collections because you got to have the money in there, and two, it has to be on a 3-month rolling average. Now you may not be able to start this now until 3 months down the road after we get back in practice. I don't want to base it on production because production does not translate into collections at the same time. So I definitely want to do it on the collection part of it, all right? I will tell you that I would tell you most teams, this comes from teams, not even the doctors, most teams would rather be paid market value because they're valuable to the practice, have some benefits that they can use, have the rewards and recognition along the way, the lunch, the anniversary, the shopping trips, the surprise, spontaneous rewards, than the frustration or worry of being on a bonus incentive. because it's as frustrating for them as it is for the doctor. And if you're going to be on one, you got to be able to celebrate and give it out. So honestly, I think I have taken away more bonus incentives than I've put in place. But I've also balanced the salaries and benefits to match that percentage of what it should be. So I'm happy to send you an example of one that's based on collections to see how that will be able to help you if you're interested in that. It's very controversial, I'm sure, for some practices to do that. Okay, all righty. Let's see here, we got it. Any more chats? Okay. Let's see here. Okay, well, just make sure we got them all. Any other chats here before we're going to take a break? All right, we got it. Okay, I have right now, I've got 12 minutes. It's 12 minutes to 11 here, 12 minutes till 12 there. We will start back at, let's start at 10 till 1 Central Standard Time. So that will give you some time frames. You got a full hour for lunch. We're going to take a break, get reset up and engineered. This is a good time to send me any chats about anything we've discussed already or anything that's coming up, and I'll make sure that we answer those. I just can't believe how many of you are on here today and doing this with us. I know you have a lot of other things on your mind, but what I love is you're thinking forward. What are we going to do when we get back in the office? Because we are going to be back in the office. We may not know when. You're going to be back with your great patients and your great team behind you, and we're thinking forward of what we can do. So when we come back at lunch, we're going to do two things. We're going to go over the financial arrangement part, if we have to make any changes there, and we're going to go over our internal marketing and also go asking for referrals. I added this to our seminar today because I think we've all kind of been resting on our laurels and not asking patients to refer to us. We need to get back to that, and it costs no money to do it. So I'll see you in an hour. Have a great lunch. Go take a walk around the block. Let's get some fresh air, and I will see you back. And we will send you there'll be a tone about 5 minutes before we're ready to start. You will hear a tone on your webinar, so you can even keep it on, and you will hear a tone giving us 5 minutes to get our act together and get back. Okay, look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good walk outside.